hope that it's better weather is gone and then we can go back to normal Southern California weather. And until we go back to typical California weather, and I hope that you guys taking care of yourself very well. My name is Christian Wee. I'm gonna lead this class. It was educational leadership and administration. I don't know who you are, but I hope that you guys have taken my class before, and I'm gonna give you kind of a very brief introduction to you guys, my introduction to you. And I studied intercultural study in Biola University, and still I'm really interested in also immigrant churches, second generation churches, and second generation cultures, but still it's busy. I don't know how I'm busy now, and then seems like I don't have time to research, and I don't have time to engage with them, and it's kind of it's a really busy. And still last year December I started short-term mission again with other families, and then I'm taking the family to the Tijuana in Mexico. So usually I had 2 days trip, but nowadays it's a 1 day trip. So whoever interested and with their families, and then we can go down and we serve one church there. So we already selected church. It's a Mexican church, and then we can work with the church. So maybe if you are able, maybe if you have time, maybe you can maybe at least once, and you can join us. And then temporarily we set the week, and the fourth week of every Saturday. So we're gonna go down and spend the time with the children and eat together, and try to teach something and come back. So that's our monthly trip. So because of the pandemic, and I didn't go to other place. Usually I took the family to Guadalajara and Michoacan in Mexico. That was kind of 10 days trip. So we usually work with 2 churches during the week, and then after that, and after Sunday to Wednesday, so it's a family trip to other place, and spend the time together with the family members. That's a mission trip. And maybe, so if you are any question and interested in some question about me, and feel free to ask a question, and maybe you can through email, maybe you can, if you really get my phone number, and then maybe you can text me. Usually I don't take the phone, the number that I don't know. Usually it kind of it goes to silence. But if you are interested, if you have any question about class and other things, and maybe you could send the email. If you want to get the email, and then it's available at the office, right? And I don't know how many of you guys are really interested in education. Maybe some of you guys already got involved in education, like at churches, at schools, and I don't know how many. So maybe education is indispensable in our life. So maybe we have to raise the children, and we have to learn something continually, because everything's changed now, right? And when you look back to 10 years ago and 20 years ago, in society, technology is totally different. But nowadays, and then if you don't catch up the new things, and always behind, right? And usually we use the text message and Google it, and but nowadays, what's a chat, AI, and then if you are interested in just typing and something's popping up like whole nice sentence, and I was really surprised. Yeah, and sometimes when I read so in other school when I read the kind of responses, right? So they have to turn it into kind of a weekly response after the class, and then when I read, and then I really doubting whether they write this paragraph or it's coming from other places. Yeah, it's really interesting and quickly changing and developing, and so we're not so really hard. Sometimes it's hard to adjust it, but in terms of education, we gotta learn, right? And if you don't learn it, maybe you could be you could get behind in the society. So this class is not just one of the theory class and one of the kind of learning class, and it's not another class. Basically, this class is really interested in education, and then I'm gonna learn kind of lead institution, school institution, right? And maybe if you are not if you don't become a principal or vice principal, but I'm not a teacher, and then but still you gotta know how as a teacher how you can educate and teach your student with other people like other teachers and principals and school districts, and then and policies, all kind of things. So this course and kind of seek to understand the school systematically, not just this is teachers group and this is district is there, and this is student and this is staff and this is some programs, and not like this. Systematically. So we're gonna learn about what is systematically, and it's not just analyze. Oh, school is like that, and look at this part. We analyze this whole program. It's not like that. This is different way that we really emphasize in this class, and then So really keep that in mind, the word systematically and system thinking. We're gonna talk about next class. So really understand the school systematically, and why we wanna understand the school systematically, and because think about leadership and administration, education leadership and administration mean that you gotta know what you need as a leader. You could lead a school, right? And so the goal is what? To operate the schools efficiently. That's why you lead. And what? To accomplish the purpose of education. That's why we need to know and understand the school systematically. How can we learn the school efficiently, effectively? And how can we achieve the purpose of education? There is a primary schools and secondary schools, and higher education is there. Through the whole process, and how can we prepare students for the next level of education, and then primary and secondary and higher education, right? So each stage has a different purpose of education. It's not just giving the knowledge, and then we gotta prepare for the student, who could be a leader of society, and then who can serve in society, and right? who can adjust to the society and make, they need to make, their living. And how can we see, how can we prepare students? It's a part of your goal of education. So that's a big picture of this class. And then this class explored the essential component that are needed to run schools. Just when you think about school, and maybe if you are a teacher and just think, oh, I'm a teacher, I go to classroom, I have a textbook, I'm gonna teach. Maybe it's good, but as a teacher, you cannot do everything by your own, right? There is a rules. There is a school contracts there. There is a power, as a authority there out there, right? And you have to follow district rules, and you have to follow regulation of the state and federal. Sometimes you gotta deal with a lot of issues as a teacher. You are not a leader who needed to solve the problem, but still you gotta deal with it. So think about what components are out there. Maybe leadership, maybe relationship with the district, relationship with the students, any special programs, any teacher association, and there's a lot of component, and maybe that is the basic component, but think about school, power is there, power structure is there, right? And school culture is there, and there's a making decisions process there. We gotta set up the goals and visions, and we gotta know what we are aiming at in this school, right? Like this, and then there's a various component is there. We're gonna go over one by one. So each component needs students to understand the schools with a systematic approach, so that student may learn the current status of education and the issues in education. So maybe you guys can learn what components needed, and as a leader who really needed to know if she wants to be a principals and vice principals, because they are administrator at school, right? So we're gonna go over one by one, and then maybe the class challenges students to prepare for the future education to get along with the societal change because of the advanced technology, right? So how can we do this? So basically, maybe you can think that this class is for someone who really wanna be principals and vice principals like this, right? And how can how can they kind of lead the school? So maybe you don't have to go to public school. Maybe if you have some vision for education, and then you can go to another cross-cultural setting, like another country. Maybe you can build a school, and you are in charge of the leading the school and responsible school, and then we need to know. Maybe, I already told you, maybe if you want to become a teacher, maybe if you want to be a board member at schools, and then we're going to know what's going on, right? It's really helpful for, who are interested in education. Here is some course objectives and desired outcomes, and then first of all, I hope to understand education as a whole system at school, whole system as a whole, not just a part, Okay, as a whole. Maybe if you eat apple, just think about it. And if you cut it off and peel and cut it off, cut it and divide it with 6 pieces, 8 pieces, and then take out all the seeds and then pull apart and then maybe, oh, this is an apple, and then you cannot see the color. Maybe before you eat, you cannot taste the color. Maybe it's hard to say that what kind of the apple is like, right? And you can just see, but if you, that's a kind of, a dice, or divided and peel, divided, and but ready to eat. And then but another just apple is here. You can, there's as it is a whole, they don't cut anything and color is there, and then you can see maybe you cannot see the inside the texture, but still you can see what is this, right? Maybe sometimes if you had kind of experience or this apple is really good, and maybe if you know what types of apple, and then you can guess. So I don't want to this class is really focused on it's whole, right? So I want as a whole, I want you we want to understand the school as a whole, right? Not teaching just teaching student inside class. It's not about this class. And another object is to help student understand the essential component fulfilling the purpose of education. So we need to know, maybe we cannot deal with all detailed stuff, but still, maybe here and there, but we need to go over the basic components. And then how can we put together as a system, right? So last, we are going to this class is, the student can evaluate the current status of education, maybe in your schools, and then maybe America, and maybe your home countries, and then evaluate. Maybe your church and other institute, right? And look forward to further your future of education. So, okay, we're gonna evaluate this, and then what about next? How can we improve? How can we develop? Like this, right? Maybe after this class, maybe you can see the school as a whole and have ability to evaluate all component and school systems, and then if I'm in the place, how can I lead the schools like that? There is books, and then usually we're gonna focus on 2 books, and then I'm gonna get the most material from our book, and sometimes I get kind of information from the online, and then it's really credible, and then I can show you, but mostly information from the book. And the books are a little bit old, but if you wanna buy the recent editions, and then it's really expensive, so maybe you can buy, but there is a little difference, but not that much, and then maybe kind of new things added. And recommended book, and then if you really wanna interested, and then maybe there is a different perspectives, and then more ways, and then you can see that one, right? And I'm really interested in the rise of how can you teach relationally, and how can you teach kind of culturally, in cross-cultural context. That is really interesting. So I hope that maybe we really we really focus on so based on the American education, not from the other countries, and but still there is the way that really different approach, but how can you do that, right? Depends on the size of the school and depends on the cultures. Here are basic class topics, and here is an introduction. Today we're gonna go over first week and second week and third week, fourth week, and there's a basic component that we're gonna go over, but we're not gonna touch a lot of issues at school now and politically kind of coming out, but like gender education, all kind of stuff, and then there is specific issues, right, related to the politics, and then we're not gonna touch that part, and but still, if you wanna become a teacher and if you wanna be an administrator at school, then you gotta know what's going on. But we are not going to talk about in this class. Okay, let's jump in some introductions of this class. Before we go in, and I want to know what's going on. And in the beginning, I already talk to you guys and about societies keep changing. We already heard about a lot in globalization. It's one of the big things, right? Starting from the companies and then outreach kind of to connect with the other countries and they want to do business, but still from there, and then nowadays, not just for the companies, and then culturally, and it's really diverse now. Here is some, what is a word that was a futurist scholars and kind of foretold, right? And I don't know whether you guys have Alvin Toffler, and he said that he talked about book is a third wave. It's a power shift like that. Have you heard about the book? And he divided kind of by history, societies, first wave and second wave, and there's it's a book came out in the 80s, and then third wave. What is the first wave? And first wave is like agricultural societies, and they are nomadic and they are not settled, but they started maybe settled and make a society, agricultural society, right? And then they are not just hunting and gathering culture anymore, and they settle, they raise something and provide themselves. That's an agricultural society. That's a first wave. Still, if you see the people's group, and I call the people's group, and people have their own culture. Sometimes it's not a nation. Just go to the Amazon jungles, and there's a lot of different peoples. Sometimes language is different, but language is same, but their culture is different. Right? They get together, they share their customs and values, and then that's a people group. And then still hunter and gatherers group there, they don't raise. But if you go to third country, kind of developing country, underdeveloped country, still they will rely on the agriculture, right? But America is one of the big business agriculture. It's different. It's really modernized and technologized, right? And they use advanced technology, and not like agricultural society. And then they kind of produce mass, and then that's a big business, not for self-supporting. That's the first wave. What about second wave? Second wave is the kind of industrial age, and they developed industry and machines and what they may produce bulk mass, right? And they selling and they distribute and then they import, export like this. That's the start with in Western country, start in European countries and what with the industrial revolutions. And society kind of broke the trade. Agricultural society is really was extended families, right? And grandson, parents, and grandparents and great-grandparents like this. And also the industrial second wave, in the second wave, the families turned to nuclear families. So parents and children like that. So this one is really second wave is like really think about and try to how can we prepare for the kids for the next generation is based on this society, right? And really system is really kind of following the industrial systems and cooperations. Yeah. But third wave is a little bit different though. And it's not anymore we really focus about industries or factories and then machines and third wave really gonna be informations. And it's not just about locally and they build the factories and not anymore. And then they plantation more and then there is information. How can we get change information and how can we like this? That's the third way. He said okay, society changing, agricultural society and industrial society and then information society. So we can get all information from the internet and then how these informations permeate in our daily lives, right? And think about and in how this can make us and then make use of this mega trend and how we need to kind of thrive in this environment. That is the third wave, right? I don't know whether you guys and maybe my daughter is 25 and 26 and turned right now it's still 24, 25 and then they said they born in 90s, around the late 90s and but still they said that they are very different from the 2000s. I know they are bridge and according to the generation studies, and then they are kind of overlap with millennials and Gen Z. I know they share a lot of similar characteristics, but it's kind of they are bridging. They said it's a lot of different. They are different a lot, right? They are different a lot, and then they said they are textbook generation though. I think it's the last textbook generation, and then around 2000, I know they use a textbook, but with a tablet, not physical textbook. And it's different. So society is changing and changing. How can we adopt society, changing society, and how can we live in a society? And then, so we gotta learn. That's Alvin Toffler's kind of, what's that? Kind of Alvin Toffler's view about future. And then, when you think about nowadays, and then he's right. His kind of prediction was right? And Naive, he's a kind of mega trend. And already kind of mentioned that, and think about nowadays society's kind of also companies big and churches big and organization big and try to get a power and control and give them more influence. Can you see the tendency? And another guy is Drucker said it as amalgam as a post-industrial society and was post-Beijing society, and that and information age is kind of society is a little bit kind of all put together. And another one is that Freeman's, he said flattened the world is flat. I don't know whether you guys read about the book, and I still remember there's a McDonald's and Coca-Cola, and then wherever you go to the world, any part of the world, there's Coca-Colas, and then a lot of places, McDonald's here and there. Some places like really contextualized and like this. And it's the same brand, McDonald's here. If you go to Korea and McDonald's, there's a different burgers. Bulgogi burgers. There's no bulgogi burgers. So, the world is really flat. And we share the information, and nowadays something's happened the other side of the world, and then nowadays with the through the social media, and then it's spread quickly, right? Just think about earthquake in Syria, but it's constant in a minute. So nowadays, and even though, and maybe government, that had a different political system, they try to block, but still, there is a lot of way to reach out and get information. So society is changing, right? How can we get along with the society, and then we live in the society? I'm getting older and older, right? Sometimes when I learn about technology, and then I'm really not confident. I know I try to play and learn a lot, but sometimes I struggle a lot, and it takes a lot of time, and still, some part I don't have confidence, but I gotta learn. And mean that, so there's a lot of places there to re-educate the people, right? That's a part of it, and kind of adult education. Here is some thing that we need to think about, and how education is influenced on others, right? I don't know whether you guys can see the kind of historical cost of tuition and fee. How much you gotta pay for tuition for college education nowadays, and for the if you parent don't send the kids to the private school and then they don't have to pay much, right? And maybe they have to provide what their children need for education, but if they send to enroll their kids to the private school, then it depends on. Yeah, some private school you gotta pay 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 per year, but if they raise the children in public school, they don't have to pay anything, right? That's America. But if you go to Mexico, and there is a registration fee every semester, even public school. Secondary and primary and secondary schools. Here is a kind of change of the tuition, education. If you wanna send your kids to college, and how much you guys have to pay and support. And maybe if you don't, and then your children, the student have to pay. And I came over United States in 1996, and I went to college in 1999, and I started the college here. And then at that time, I went to the Cal State Pomona, and then the tuition for each semester is like $600. 10 weeks is $600 because I'm a resident here, and then whole year, even though if I took a full semester on the quarters, there's a quarter system, and then I just paid $2,400. That was at that time, but nowadays it's kind of triple. And here it is, and then private college is like 2020 is like almost $32,000 private college for the tuition, and then if they put in rise of dorm and living cost, and then like $50,000. But nowadays most private colleges like $70,000, maybe small college like if you send like a small Christian college and liberal arts college around here, but not that expensive. But if you want to send the kids like a little bit prestigious college, and more than $70,000. I know tuition is about maybe. Tuition is really expensive nowadays, going on, and more than $50,000, and then they need to dorm and they kind of room and board, and then room and board is like almost $20,000 per year. So my kids, when they are in college, it's like 3 years ago and 4 years ago, almost they paid $70,000. But we don't pay the $70,000, but the schools, the finance is a little different from other schools, and depends on your parents, how much parents make money, and then with the whole household income, and then they kind of assign you gotta pay this much for your children, like this, and we call it need-based. But if you go to other school like UC, and then already set, right? If you have a certain income, and then you gotta pay a whole, like this. So that's why we chose our private college to send our children. And like this, $32,000, and this is like public college is about $10,000. But I think if you send, if parents wants to send children to UC system, and then the tuition is almost like $20,000 nowadays. $15,000 to $20,000. I don't know exactly. And K-State is like half of almost UC or two-thirds of UC, like that. And here is an public college. Do you know almost more than triples? Private college is more than triple than the public college, right? And what about, and this is a private two-year college is 15 more expensive than public four-year college, and then almost 5 times of their public college, two-year college, right? And assume that that is just the tuition, not including room and board and around 2020 and 2021. Depends on the schools, right? If you go to like Biola and other small colleges, it's not expensive like that. Right? Tuition is around 30, 40 and plus room and board and like this. It's and cheaper than the like East Coast, really, famous college in East Coast, and then like this. But average is like that, average. Just think about the household income. That's the median household income, and I know depends on the race group, and then that's the racial rights groups, and then who is the least to make money? That's median, right? Median is kind of from all the lowest and highest, and then middle. It's not an average. And usually by the statistic is less than 50,000. Think about if they have kids, and then can you send it to the this college, private college? No way. If they don't have any financial support from school, right? And think about, even though they go to public school, and 1/4 is for the children's education. And what else? Housing is there, living cost is there, and other stuff is there. Unrealistic, right? I know that's why for those people groups, and school provide, government provides subsidize, and private schools and give them some special support, right? That's why they can do that. And others, Hispanic, any other racial group is around 60s, median income is 60s. And what about and white, but not Hispanic? It means that not Hispanic means that, and white, right? Hispanic, and there's a white Hispanic is there in the indigenous like me, and different skin colors, and then white is around 80, but almost was Asians almost 10,000, 100,000. That's median. Mean that it's median mean that some people can more, but a lot of people are in poor conditions, living, right? In terms of living. But think about the average of the US, almost $70,000. They are medians. What is that? We call nowadays kind of 80. So if you send the kids to UC, and then under 80, I heard 80,000. Maybe they can get government subsidies. I'm not sure exactly, but I overheard, and then like this. There is also depends on, but think about the income is like then how can you support the children's education? And I don't know whether you guys know about Asians, and then Asian parents really sacrificially support what? The children's education. Not everybody, mostly. That's why they send them to the academy and they really do send them to the other private school, right? Really to. They sacrifice a lot because they think the education is really important to their life, true success. No, to succeed in their life, right? And we're gonna keep that in mind. And then, but there is a income disparity is a big gaps there. And then education expenses like this, except the room board, right? And here is another diagrams here. And how much make as an Asian if you grade your college? Here it is. If you grade your colleges like if you have a bachelor degrees and how much you make? You make around $54,000, and that's the in total they make. But if you are white, the same degrees, and they make $54,000, $54,007. That's median. If you are white, but if you are black, it's 49,000, almost 50,000. So if you are Hispanic, it's almost same. But what is the if you are Asian, it's like a 69. I don't know why Asian makes a lot of money like that, right? I don't know why. Do you know? Depends on the degrees, and then high school, college, and higher degree mean a higher degree. And then maybe bachelor or higher degree, maybe they have a master's and doctorates, and then make more money like this. But that's why the parent, Asian parent, like really sacrificially support their children's education. Right? Is correct? But white family, I don't know how much really send support to the graduate schools and doctorate degree, and then depends on the family background. If you have a typical, if they are in typical middle class, from the high school, usually they support, students support themselves. But if you are really high income white families, and then they really support education. It's more than Asian family parents, much more than. And there is, even though they have the same situation, and then there's income disparities there, right? Even though they have the same degrees. How can we help a student equipped for the next level of life, for education? And then they could make a decent amount of money for their living. And education is part of that, not the academic education, sometimes vocational education too, right? There's a lot of, a long time ago, there's a trading school, but nowadays there's a lot of vocational, trading school is there, and then vocational school is out there. Yeah, there's a disparity in the was a different, even though they have similar degrees in their education. And here is a SAT score by family incomes, and then it's a little bit old, but there is, you gotta know that, and higher incomes in families, the children's, I think it's, that time is like 2,400, more than 17 over. Can you see the depends on their family income is kind of correlated to the SAT scores, right? Why? Why? Maybe if you make more, you have more money to support children's education, your children's education, right? That's why. Nowadays, a lot of resources out there. So maybe they send them to the learning center, they send them to the kind of academy, and they have personal tutoring, whatever, and then they invest a lot. Maybe they send them to the private schools. If you don't have, you can't. Just send them to public school like me. Yeah, that is the difference. That is the difference. So that's why I try to make more monies and support the family and children's, especially children's education. Think about the economic status and social economic status, and so how social economic status and influence on children's education. Parent degree of education and the income, right? It's really influence on children's education. That's the society that we are living now. And when you go to school and think about your students, who they are, maybe it's really, maybe people who, just think about the population of the students. So Asians really dominate, wow. Latinos really dominate, and white people really dominate. Depend on where you live. Depends on the, like, a lot of times it depends on the kind of divided by incomes, right? And in my area, it's like a lot of Asian communities, and then the minorities kind of dominant majority. And Solidarity, and there's a Whitney High School, it's a nationally known high school, and then that's why a lot of Asian wants to move to their area. It's not a really expensive area, but still typical suburb area, and they wanna move in because they wanna send their kids to the Whitney High School. And there's a lot of elementaries there, and then compare to kind of get the score in national, and they're pretty up there, because do you remember how parents can invest their resources on their children? That's why they have good scores, and they are kind of doing very well. But if you go to the next block in LTZI and Hawaiian Gardens, another cities there, and this is really different though. Altija High School is different from the Service High School. Service High School is like to everybody, and the Whitney High School is kind of selective processes there. And school district is there, and then they kind of select the people who, that is kind of divided in 4 districts, areas are there, and then this school and then this area and then 1/4, this area 1/4, and then they select the students. That's the selection process. But it's a little bit over, and then the school district accept was a student from the Compton because they want to give them kind of better education environment. Anyway, there's I know they try to solve some problem, but still there's a lot of disparity. Depends on the society changing, and it depends on the parents' values, and then, well, children's education is really deeply influenced by, right, parents and cultures. And there is kind of, in America, there is a voice that they really had kind of, okay, if we have in this way, we fail, and we gotta reform our education system. And that's why there is 3 waves of education reformations. And before that, it's like around the 80s, and then there's a report like A Nation at Risk. And the imperative for educational reform. So they feel like, oh, if we do educate our children like this, we're gonna fail. Right now we are at risk, we gotta reform. And so federal government provide only 8% of funding for the public elementary and secondary schools, because education is a lot of different facets, influence social media and other stuff, and that's why. And they provide like just 8%. And their voice came out, oh, we gotta reform. And right before that, year ago, and then there's a payday. Payday proposal came out. The group is they kind of presented educational manifesto. That is kind of indicate that the failures of the public school system with the recommendations for reforming it to bring all students to a level of academic achievement that would equally them to go do college level work. That's true though, that's true. If you go to public school, and I send my kids to a public school, it's totally different levels there. And how can they have the equal opportunity to go to next level, and how can they achieve, right, to get the higher education? And my kids are in public high school, is the secondary schools, and then and then there is Wednesday class and normal class is there, honor class is there, and AP class is there. Do you know how it's different? And normal class is like there's textbook is there, and kind of learning is slow, and people are not much interested in studying, and students are not interested in studying, and then they covered about 1/3. If they are in honor class, and they cover more. If they AP class, advanced placement class, and then it's like college level, but it's not college level. They aim to college level. They finish the whole books and little bit in depth, compared to honor class and compared to the regular class. Just think about people who take the regular class, and how can you compare? And at the end of the year, for example, if you take math class, maybe regular class, they finished in algebra in high school. But also, if you have a really rigorous, if you have really rigorous study and they finish calculus and variation class, AP class. Really, I know, depends on the student achievement and we can divide, but still, how can we support the student, equip the student to allow them to do the kind of college level of their class? Next. Yeah, that's the kind of, around the 80s, and then boys came out, we got to reform the education system. And then, so first wave is like started around the mid of the 80s, 1980s. And they are really focused on raising student performance and teachers' qualities. How can students getting better on their studies? And okay, we gotta kind of we need to kind of teach us their quality. Maybe they have to study this one and they need a credential like this, right? And so, and that first wave really increased the high school graduation and teacher certificate requirement. So even though you study education in college, and they need to kind of certificate. And if you want to teach a specific subject like secondaries, and then you need major in subject biology and English, and then after that, finish that, and then you're gonna get a certificate, credential. That is a kind of you gotta requirement. And then, so what do they do? And then initiated longer school days. Maybe they finish at 1 o'clock and maybe 3 o'clock. And school years and days and longer, and make it longer, and then competence testing, added competence testing, and standardized tests, curriculars, and promotion criteria for students. They tried to do something, and it worked. It really focused on the performance, right? That's the first wave of the 80s. What about second wave? Around late 1990s, and then that is the kind of build schools as a basic unit of educational productivity, and made schools were focused for the improvement. It's really improvement. It's a basic unit of productivity. And it's a little bit different from the first wave, but let's see how it's different. And really emphasize the change in capacity of building for the professional development of the teachers, and they want to raise the kind of raise the bar of the teachers' qualities, right? There's a changes in capacity of building for professional development of teachers, and governs that brought teachers and parents and other members of the immediate community into the decision process. It's a little bit different, right? Teachers are really influential on student and education, and let them be a professional, and welcome kind of supporting whole things. Maybe they change the classroom, and they change the special for the teachers, and maybe they provide more equipment for education, something like that. And then along the that, and then we need to listen to parents, we listen to other members, maybe board members, and we need to ask them. Maybe before that, and also decision processes depends on the district. From the district and leaders, and from that time, second wave, and they participate in decision process. And what was the issues and high expectation of student performance, that's a think about how much parents wanna very demanding. And but not sufficient occurrence of the highly complex system to function well. Okay, we don't make it better, but we don't have a system to support. And how can we do that? That's the issues. That's the second wave. Can you see how it's different from the first wave? And third wave is coming out, and that one is kind of okay. Already second wave. We live in multifaceted society, and then our society is getting a lot of facets itself and connected, and then how can we support student systematical system with the systematic systems? That's why the third wave is really focused on the thinking about systematic reform. And so this is a really comprehensive change, the focus of the many aspects of the system and policy integrations and coordination around a clear set of outcomes. It's not just a teacher's job, right? And there's a policy influences children's education. Teachers influence children's education. And how can we put all together in the system? And maybe we can have other things school can do. And think about it as a whole. And how can we put together, and then how can we raise the bar of outcome? Right? That is the third wave. So from the time, and there's a charter schools coming out, and charter school is kind of it's a public school, but still free from the many policies that apply to district operated schools, like we call public schools, and there's a charter school came out, and just private school sector is kind of involved in the public schools. And still, they want to make a profitable in their own education, but that's a little bit different. And that's why, and they try to have more kind of and try to find effective educations. And communication was a private school communicate with public school, communicate with the private schools, and different kind of schools are coming out, depends on their needs, right? And if the students have their special programs, and they really focus on the sport and something others, and there's different schools out there, right? And they could go to charter school. Still, after 2000 there's a reformation about education. It's 2000 and 2015, and there's another thing is here. I don't know whether you can see on the. There's no child behind 2002. There's no child behind. Left behind. There's a NCLB kind of this is really thinking about the student. So there is really influential and think about students who not speaking English as a mother tongue, and people who doesn't have proper, not enough socioeconomic status, and really poor students, and then they are really struggling at schools, right? And how can we support that? So no child left behind is act is really big. So, uh, so if you that is really considering the minority children and poor children, right? And not like a second language students, and usually they are struggling. And like 2005, there's Individual with Disability Improvement Act, and there is, and then how can individual whose disability, and then how can they could improve in their educations, and then that is all. Let's see. And here is couple little bit every year lot of acts is kind of developing the common core is 2009 and kind of standardized, and then at least if they are in student high school, and then they lead to this class, and then kind of what is in common core mean it's a standardized curriculums, and then they can go through these curriculums, and then here is there's a 2010, and there's come really emphasize kindergarten education, and then and think about, and then teachers who are in kindergarten who are teachers in kindergarten, and they need kind of understanding more children, and they're gonna take some classes to develop understanding development of children, early childhood, like this, and then keep try to a lot of provide understanding of educations and children, and provide understanding different students, and then still provide proper education for them. That's a recommendation is there. So maybe there's a note, and then maybe you can see that one. And what are the education to think about, and before you go into the school and understand each component of the schools, and then what are the issues nowadays we are facing? What are you hearing commonly from the news? One of it is gun control. A lot of shootings at schools. How can we provide safety for students, safe environment for students and teachers? It's kind of one of the issues, right? With the gun control. How can we provide a safe environment? And then nowadays, I consider the schools, high schools, and they have a fence kind of raising up. It's hard to go over the fence, right? Even though they couldn't, they need to still take time, and there is kind of old and fences are higher, and then camera is there, and they monitor. What about another issue is what about fund? It's enough to run the schools? It depends on fund is from the government, fund is from the state, federal, state, and from the cities. Your cities are rich, and then and more fund is from the cities. Like in Cerritos, there is auto center is there, and auto center they sell, and there is a city tax there, and then they can part of the city tax coming into and provide education. So fund issues, right? And Okay, so last school year, government provide fund like this, and then this month, let's say 5 millions, and then if we don't use the all 5 millions, and then what? The government cut down the fund. That's why school, I don't know how effectively use the money, but school wants to consume all the money. There is a lot of projects going on. Maybe eventually the student needs it in the future, but sometimes to think about. That's why it's really important. You gotta know the current situation, what's going on, and then how much is coming, sort of as a budget, how much budget is coming in from other side, and then maybe principal can raise some fund, and then how much is, and how can, with this, how can we provide education, better education? Because if we don't use this much of money, and then next year we're gonna cut, fund is cutting down. That's why we gotta consume. I don't know how effective. Fund issues here, and safety issue here. What about another issue? Technology. Some schools use a lot of technologies. Maybe government provides sometimes. Public school is hard, and the fund is really limited, and then sometimes experiment is really limited. But if you go to private school, then they have everything. Class size is small, like this. It's related to fund. And what about technology? How much a school can provide it? How much they can use it as classroom, right? And what about and charter schools? And they have a lot of freedom. That's a public school. They have freedom. I don't know how kind of controlled the educational systems. That's a public school, right? And what about voucher programs? How can we supervise, and how can we develop, and how can we run it effectively to influence on this education, student education? What about the problem with the Common Core curriculum? And my younger daughter was in first year. I think we heard about it first time, and then there was kind of a pilot project in school, and there was with the math class, and I don't know, the way of the classrooms, class is different from the previous class, and then there is no homework. And there is kind of depends on the student. Just think about who really wants to study without homework, right? And a lot of responsibility on the student. But if you are not good at math, and if you are not good at study, and then how much they can study, and then a lot of students are struggling. To really struggle. Even though my daughter is pretty good at math, and then but still she doesn't know much about that, and there is no homework, and then you gotta study by yourself, and then what? How can no? I'm busy. I wanna do something different. Like my daughter's playing the tennis, and then she spends a lot of time on tennis like this. And at the end of the class, and then I don't know what is the scale, grading scale is really different. 60% right is in B, and 80% right is same scale. Think about, and how can you say this 80% right is it doesn't matter the letter grade, but what about the achievement is the same. It's no different. How much you know, and then maybe 80% know. If you got a 80% and if you got a 90%, it's a big difference there in terms of knowledge and understanding. But there is kind of grading systems like that, and so it's really hard. And after first semester, first year, and then they removed it, the pilot program, and then the next year, 10th year, the math teacher knows what they went through. They are not really ready for the next level, and he tried to make up all things. And my daughter's, from that time is kind of catch up the whole. She missed it, and then that is kind of struggling. And maybe school started, California already implemented the Common Core curriculums, and then think about what's the problem. How can we use that one? And really, and basic class of math, math, English, and the basic common class, and then they run the class. We can talk about it later. And what about that is a big issue that I don't know how much you guys know that, and a lot of teachers are struggling with a living because the salary is too low. And they are living, and then they go to farm, and then I read an article, and then I work really, very hard in school, but I cannot meet my need, and then I left the school, and finally I meet my needs now. I'm working in the farm, so like this. And that's the hard part. And really there is a standardized testing every year, and then really emphasize on the standardized testing, but still I don't know how this is effective to measure the student achievement. And there is some argument about teachers' tenures, and sometimes if they are tenured, and they cannot fire, and even though they are not good at teachings, and it's weird. It's not weird. It's not proper way though, right? And there is issues like bullying in schools, and how can you do that? How can you supervise the students, and how can kind of make an environment for students, to kind of cooperative environment for students. There is a lot of issues that are going on, right? And degree of the parent involvement, and how many schools are now closing down, and what about, and the teachers, no innovations, and kind of really nominal, and kind of not catching up to the kind of changing of societies. And just think about a lot of issues. How can we educate teachers, and then the pandemic is kind of changing teachers, right? They need to learn the right technologies. They are struggling a lot, and then but nowadays they are need to be used. But here is like a lot of things going on, and then how can we acknowledge the problem and solve the problem? And I already talked about the society changing, and then educational environment is kind of different, right? And depends on the socioeconomic background. Resources are really different, but school provides some resources. And then how can we provide how much, and there's social changes, and economic issues, and then school issues, and school itself have a lot of issues, and how can we solve these issues in education, and then how can lead the school and do the provide education successfully for the students. That's why we're gonna know leadership and administration. That's what we are aiming for. Yeah, we are aiming for in this class. And then I hope that we are not gonna we are not gonna talk about specific issues like bullies and like school environment, safe environment. That is maybe another topic but still it's not a major things. Maybe if you are talking about, maybe we can decision process, and then decision making is maybe okay. Part of it, evaluate the school environment and taking and what's best, and we can to deal with that one. But we are not gonna do specific things. But still, there's a lot of issues, right? And then if you are a leader, like the principles and how can you learn? Sometimes teachers, qualities and salaries and very crucial for the teachers, right? But if you don't provide a better kind of a proper compensation, and then they're not gonna come into this area. And then how can you raise the bar of the teachers' qualities? And then compensate for their commitment. Other than that, then you cannot get the quality of the student, the teachers. As a parent, I experience a lot. All right, so anyway, basically, I try to introduce about basic issues, and then for education, for the schools, and then for the kind of families, and then I want to know in that situation, and if you go to school as an administrator, you got principals or vice principals, and you can see the students there, people sitting there, and then how can you provide quality of education for their next step of life? Maybe some are going to the college, some are going to the workplace, right? And that's really important to know about how to run the schools. So we're gonna deal with it in this class. So if you have any questions, and just let me know, and I try to maybe we can learn together. All right. So still it's really cold, but I hope that you guys take care of yourself very well, and God bless you, and I hope that you have a great journey for education for this semester.